Welcome back, Sports Card Culture Podcast number 35. Big day, John. Congrats. It's the 1 year anniversary of this podcast.
Is it exactly 1 year?
I believe it was the Tuesday of this week. I mean, the date would have been slightly different, but it would have been the first week of October. I think we delayed the starting because I was on the golf course too often.
Was it the very first podcast that you delayed?
I think we pushed back the first
second one.
Or maybe we did one and then we paused. I don't remember.
I think it was the second one.
I mean, we've done 35. This is 36 in 52 weeks.
53 weeks, yeah.
A couple weeks off for shows and
so people don't know what
COVID.
we're talking about. Like I think we talked about it in that. No, I think it was the second podcast, the very next one. And then so when we did the second podcast, I'm like, what the heck, And actually, I think it was kind of a nice conversation, if I remember right. It's about us having a conflict and then resolving it.
Yeah.
And nobody went through a plate glass window.
Yeah, no one was embittered
Now,
for 10
here's
years.
the problem with that analogy is we're both really big. I don't think one of us could pick up the other one, so I don't think that's a
don't throw me through anything, please.
It's not an issue of who's not strong, because I'm not strong.
Do you even do we even have a number 36?
We never looked it up because we were being lazy.
It's a number that I don't even. It doesn't come to mind as any.
We can figure one out and come up with it in 45 minutes. Just yell right in the middle of podcast.
But anyway, we got a fun topic.
So let's get right into it. So, I'm right now trying to figure out how to.
Jerome Bettis.
Ooh,
Jerome Bettis is good.
Bus.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's take the bus to school.
So I'm trying to figure out how to shut my business down in the next 3 years because Fanatics is going to put us all out of business.
Nice.
How concerned are
you? Let's say 4 out of 10.
4.
Not that concerned. Primarily because their only real area of influence is going to be over brand new unopened product, which is not the whole of the store.
So I'll read this article, Hockeybuzz.com, and I'll scroll up and say the title so people can find it.
We'll
it's a little blurb. We'll do a link in the description. While framed as an attempt to cut out the middleman for consumers, that's just a fancy way of saying we want all the money.
Yep.
The customer convenience aspect of this business model is likely more Bob Ross, a happy accident, than a pure driving force. What's better way to bring the leagues and the PAs, that's player associations, and their investments on board is to sell them a model where they see a financial return in every step of the card market, not just the licensing.
Yeah, so let's make the leagues richer.
The fees inherent in grading, so they want to be in grading. Storing, they want to be in COM-C. Facilitating secondary transaction, they want to be eBay. See an increased income, thereby motivating their investment and getting this off the ground. And so the article is much longer, but that's the blurb I really want to go. Including in that, Matt said, and I didn't see that in this article, but he saw it somewhere else, they want to do direct-to-consumer wax through the website.
Yep.
And they have Fanatics, like apparel stores. Mm-hmm. And the theory is they would only put unopened wax in those stores and no more card shops.
So then they would want to basically open a bunch of franchisees, but I mean, would they become a franchisee thing where they come to you and say,
I think they're all company stores, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they're company stores.
And there aren't any in Minnesota yet, are there? I haven't seen.
I bet there is one. We just don't know.
No, Mall of America.
America.
Probably Mall of America has one.
And then maybe like Southdale.
Yeah, there might a couple of the bigger malls.
But there might be like 2 or 3. We just don't know. And so here's the thing. So my first instinct is you can't control the secondary market at all because you've lost control over the product.
Right.
Once it's opened, it's mine. I can do whatever I want with it.
Right.
So the concept that they're going to leverage the licensing so that PSA can't grade it, that's not a thing.
Or somehow they're going to build a sales platform that has the name recognition and experience of eBay.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. They
unlikely.
can do that. But
the market's not going to go there.
Decision.
Yeah.
Like, there's no structural way to make me do business with it.
And what's more synonymous with collectibles than eBay? Like, there's no way to brand.
Well, eBay is still the number one seller of sports cards in the world.
There's no way to over brand and somehow market beyond.
Now,
eBay,
I would argue. Well,
unless they bought them.
I would argue this.
They could buy them. They're public. I mean, if they had the money, they could. But
hey,
and then
can you look at what eBay's market cap is? That's interesting. That's an interesting statement.
Stock,
so that's the one thing. Now they can do that, and eBay is really good at like making eBay worse. So
yeah, no.
I mean, I don't want to say they couldn't.
eBay could use some improvement.
The other aspect is let's say
market cap's $45 billion.
So they're 5 times bigger than Fanatics.
It's big, but they wouldn't need to have the cash themselves if they could.
eBay's not going to spin off just the sports cards of eBay. That's not a thing. No. I mean, that's not a thing. I mean, they could definitely.
Well, do you know what percentage?
So much better that people go to.
Do you have a guess what percentage of eBay's revenue is sports cards versus everything else?
Do it at sports cards is collectibles.
Sports cards.
Sports cards, 1%.
I bet it's become a lot more than that now.
Well,
especially
we're talking art, we're talking cars, we're talking
there's
houses, we're talking
there's a lot of cards that have sold for
clothes, just shoes, and I'm not even talking about like collectible sneakers. I'm just talking like.
But to give you an idea, so eBay's cap is $45 billion.
Yeah.
Amazon, their cap is 1.6 trillion.
Wait a second. I'm surprised Amazon didn't get the licensing.
Yeah, no.
They could have really messed.
And that's what's funny because think about it. If you go back to the mid 2000s, eBay was bigger than Amazon for a long time. Amazon was strictly books, like at the outset.
No,
basically.
But
yeah. I mean, that's what they were known for, right?
You're wrong, but you're correct.
That's what they became known for.
Absolutely.
I never bought anything on Amazon for the first 10 years.
Then they bought out half.com. I used that a lot right out of college. So I graduated in 01, so like I was using those kinds of
Now,
things.
I know some customers who literally only sell through, and I think you're going to bring them up, so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but some of these like Slab Stock and all these other sites, they pay 1%.
Yeah, and so what happens is they really can't control it. Matt mentioned something. He goes, they're gonna take over breaking, and then with the grading, they're gonna say, now I think he's being facetious there, but he goes, there'll be breakers, and then they'll grade your cards as they open it and slap it right on the spot for you. Wow. I'm like, that seems a little. But one of the things he mentioned too, and it's something I didn't think about, was if they're only selling through their stores and they're selling just online, where they can kind of reduce the impact of bots, which is a possibility. Mm-hmm. How the breakers going to get the massive amount of products they need?
Right.
So, and these are the big breakers.
No, I don't think Fanatics wants to be breaking. It doesn't make sense to me.
But they do. I mean, like, literally.
I didn't hear anything in there about breaking. I heard about storage.
No, I'm just saying, grading. Like, they want to be in every aspect of it.
But they want to monetize it. I don't think they want to do the legwork. I don't think they. They understand.
Yeah, I do think
they don't have. They don't want to take on 100,000 employees.
But here's the thing. I think this is much more likely, right?
Yep.
That they will. I think the distributors might get taken out. We'll go back to direct accounts.
Which is interesting that one of our main distributors, Southern Hobby, just sold, and I wonder if some of that is in them saying, we see the writing on the wall with Fanatics.
Right, well but wasn't it it was a Beckett company, or it was Beckett, or it was something to do with Beckett.
I don't know. I haven't seen any.
And so, but you get what I'm saying? Like, they can't do anything on the second. They can't. I should say that. They can't will anything on the secondary market.
Right.
And so, like, I was saying, like, I'm actually kind of nice, set up well because I got the software to track consignment. So everybody can just make their order and come see me, put it on the shelves,
right?
Sell their stuff. You know, I'm like,
well, and think about it. If I think about our store, what percentage of our sales is new wax? It's probably 60%, but it's not the whole business.
Well, I'll put it this way. Let's look at it a different way. So now, I think this podcast might be a very business-oriented podcast, like running a business, not necessarily sports cards, but obviously, it all comes back to sports cards.
What we're selling is
But so you say 60% of your revenue might be wax, but 60% of your profit not wax.
Right.
I bet you 60% of your profits are singles, or secondary market stuff. Now that might not be true in the last year and a half. But before, no. I bet your wax was 60%.
Well, I'll say this right now. I mean, Origins Football, I'll give you an example, which is coming out right now. I don't know. This is probably going to be interesting for people who don't understand allocated pricing, but I saw Blowout's price is they're at $600 a box.
Right, and cost is
cost is like 110, 120. So I mean that's unheard of. Back in the day, Origin used to cost $160, and we'd buy it for $120.
35% has 30% to 35%. I worked in 2 card shops, and then of course you kind of know what cost was if you're like real heavy end. 30-35% has always been the margin.
Right.
Like
which is why Fanatics is interested in this, because they're seeing you and I get 300-400% margins, and they're like, I think we could be involved in that.
Now, here's something nobody's talking about. Like, nobody's talking about this. Fanatics very well might go from a $10 billion. Like, how much did they pay for all licenses? Did they ever get released?
They were worth $18 billion, I thought.
Oh, I thought 10 was. Well, either way, do you know how much they spent on licensing?
I don't know if it's public.
If it's enough, and I don't know if it is, and then let's say they buy Tops, they do all this stuff, they spend all this money, and then the market just cools. They're gonna get their lunch handed to them,
right?
Because they're gonna build up all of this infrastructure, all of this investment, and then the market's gonna go, we're gonna go back to 2014 when it was good, but.
This reminds me of a lesson that my friend taught me related to stock trading, stock options. Very successful older guy who used to live on Lake Minnetonka, and he'd have a Tuesday gathering, and he would basically let us into his house, into his basement. He had 6 screens up, and he'd teach us how he traded stock options. Fun. So the first thing he told us, he goes, and this is the opposite of what I think Fanatics is doing. He said, be content. He said, picture a stock as a candy bar on the table. Yeah. He said, be content with picking up the candy bar and taking a bite and setting it back down and letting someone else enjoy some of it as well.
I've never done that before.
The moment you pick it up and think, I'm eating this whole thing, is oftentimes the moment. And what his reference was, don't hold it too long. Be happy to take a small profit. No. Don't just say I need all of it or nothing, because sometimes then you get nothing. And it seems like Fanatics, like you said, if they build this infrastructure, they could say, hey, we want to get this whole thing. And guess what? In the midst of it, they lose it all.
Right. I mean, and because there's a lot of times businesses don't fail because they don't make money. They fail because of cash flow problems. Yep. And so they have all this outlay. Yeah. And then they can't get it back fast enough in order to pay for what they need to pay to stay in operation. And that's true with breakers. I've already said that with breakers. Yes. There's big breakers, and I'm waiting for this to happen, and I'm hoping I have enough money to acquire something substantial. Yeah. But, like, there are breakers who started out just grinding for fun, whatever. Mm-hmm. They turned into a very large business. Yeah. And that's awesome, right? Right. But there's a certain amount of them, and it might be more than half. I don't know, but it might be more than half, who are making a lot of profit because they have lots of allocation, and they're buying houses and cars and jewelry and all this stuff. And what happens is you have to commit to product sometimes a year out now. Right. And they're committing to heavy. This is where I'm kind of protected. Like I don't have cases and cases. I got a case. Right. Of everything a year out, and because I'm not going to get a case, so I don't order 10 cases. Like, there's nothing in it for me to order 10 cases. So they might have 50 cases. If the market cooled enough on these breakers, they have these massive credit card bills. They're not
assuming they are.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's definitely breakers like that. Sure. And there are other breakers who are just stashing money, right?
Yep. In other words, there's people running it wisely, and there's people that aren't. Right. And that's true of every business. People start businesses wisely.
And so what happens is, when the market cools, and it cools real fast, they're not going to be able to sell it fast enough to pay their personal expenses and buy the new product coming out. When that happens, hopefully I got enough money where I can say, look, I'll buy all of your inventory. I want your customer list. I want your Facebook page. I want your whatever it is. Right? I want your breaking page.
Well, and Facebook that way page almost became worthless yesterday.
Yeah, I noticed that. And so, but you get what I'm saying. I want your customer list. Right. And so I can buy the customer list, and then I just have to be able to handle the inventory coming in. Right. And so I don't know. I know it. I was gonna say if and when. I mean, it's gonna cool. This is never gonna stay this much forever.
Well, and this reminds me of a lot of publicly traded companies that if you look at their price to earnings and you look at their debt to sales, there's companies that are situated so much stronger with such heavy cash allocation that when inventory becomes discounted, they get to absorb all of that. Well, and that's a huge part of a business being successful.
What do you think? I told you this though. Probably not. What do you think I pay every month for my mortgage for a 2,000 square foot house?
I think I might remember. I think it's like $1,200. Is that right?
$750 a month.
Is that with insurance and taxes and everything?
That's the pity.
That's the whole thing.
Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Yep.
And the reason why it's $750 is we bought our house after the crash.
Right.
And so the reason why I say that, I mean, think about $750 for anything.
People
right?
can't get a one-bedroom apartment in
kind of a junky 60.
Right. Yeah.
And so what happens is, if you have the cash, I was seeing 4,000 square foot houses in my city that I would have loved to have for $140,000.
Right.
We bought ours for $90,000, right? And so what happens if you have the cash, you can buy all of this inventory, and you can live without money coming in for a period of time because you have enough cash. For sure, Hathaway takes that approach.
Yeah, so
and so you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You have that.
And
cash is a horrible asset, but it's a great asset.
And not only that, they can acquire competition that could threaten their market share. And so, like, in one sense, that's where Fanatics is strongest, is if the market moves, they have the ability to offer a significant amount of money to a lot of these companies.
Fanatics is not a public company, no?
No, they're private,
Yeah, so we don't know how much cash to hold them.
Yeah, I have no idea. I wonder if their books. Yeah, I don't know if their books. They must not.
Nobody
be public.
releases their books unless they.
No, but I'm saying I don't like.
They might have to file if they're big enough.
Well, like Topps isn't public on the NASDAQ or thing anymore, but we know when they were. There's an idea of
You know where you get the information is from a shareholder that shares it.
Yeah.
They get the annual report and then they release that. That'd be interesting how much cash they have to see. Like, are they kind of
now here's what I would say about Fanatics. So, am I concerned as a hobby shop? No, because here's the thing: we got to keep in mind these big businesses. They don't have a reputation in the community that can equal what you've established as a business owner in relationship. And so, relationships are what make businesses. If they sent some random employee of theirs to take over my store or to build a store next to me,
or they bought our shop,
it's not like my customers are just going to go, well, now I'm shopping there necessarily. So like there's a real life aspect to it that we're not talking about online. Now the online thing they can capture a lot more of.
100% they can control online sales.
Yes, online's a different thing.
They can cut out blowout sports cars. David Adams might be under threat. Blowout's under threat. Pittsburgh, Steel City is out of threat. Like, those guys.
Because those are not relational. That's guys shop around prices online. They just buy the cheapest box.
But that's their entire business. Yeah. There's nothing else to their business.
No, I shouldn't say that. No, David Adams has a shop.
Oh, right. But, shop.
It's a large percentage.
Even over 5 points. 5% of the business.
I would think it is, but it's, I don't.
And so, and then that's the other aspect, too. Like, let's say sports cars in their Fanatic stores. And I know this from my picking at thrift shops, because that was most of my business in the last 8 years, is thrift shops like to get into this thing where they want to price up the really valuable stuff. And it's always hilarious, because sometimes they're right, but they're always right by accident. And the reason why they're only right by accident is they go, okay, I'm going to pay you $11 an hour, and then I'm going to train you to, like, go on eBay and identify what's collectible.
And then
but the second they get good at, what do? They leave and do their own. They go and they're like, I can just pick myself.
And I can make $50 an hour, right?
Right, or whatever. Yeah. And so the problem that they're gonna have is there's no incentive for a $16 and let's say $20 an hour, $40,000 a year.
Yep.
The amount of knowledge I have in this hobby, I'm not doing that.
And that's where they can't.
Right.
They'll never take my job from me because they don't have my experience, my understanding. They don't have yours. They don't have a club.
How about this? A lot of our business is people who bust sell stuff to us so they can buy more product.
Right.
You think they're going to start buying collections?
No.
Like, because they can't get the manpower who knows how to do that properly. Right. They can do a little bit of it.
Nor do I think they want to take on that. Well, think about it. Right now, one of the biggest issues in this country is there's not enough help. Yesterday, I went to my niece's soccer game. Afterwards, we went out to eat. We tried to go to Raising Cane's in Egan, and they were not open
Wow.
to go into the store because they have a shortage of help.
Wow.
It's drive-through only. That's literally the case in like numerous places around
Our
the city.
24-hour gas stations they're closed from 11 to 8.
Yeah.
Or
So
2 to 8 or whatever.
So literally, like, good luck, Fanatics. So part of me, I go, they don't understand the labor force. Like the expertise that you have is so specialized and it takes so long to develop.
Right.
They can't even go hire someone to flip burgers. How are they going to hire a guy to grade cards?
Right.
Like,
at the rate they're going to want.
At the rate they're going to want to pay, and at the here's what doesn't happen quickly. Anytime you can create a skill or a trade that can't be replicated quickly, you have job security.
Well, a lot of what we do
time.
as card shop owners, or if you're dealers, I think breakers are more marketers, not necessarily craftsmen.
They're salesmen, and
we're artists. We're not marketers as much as we're artists. We're going like, okay, I buy this, I'll sell you that, and we're trying to, satisfy the customer's wants, and then try to figure out where the margin is. For their business.
And our guys, so many of our customers find out so quick how much work selling cards actually is. Yeah. It's easy to buy and open, and then you're like left with it, and you're like, wow, I can actually offload this to somebody, and it's like we can look at it and go, this can actually become profitable.
Yeah, and the lower the price, the more likely you're just gonna sell to one.
Yeah, it's not worth your time.
Because I can do it.
Yep.
And the only way you can do it is you have to have enough inventory to do it.
Right.
It's gotta be big enough.
So am I concerned? I would be more concerned if I was Blowout.
Yeah.
Or if I was Dave and Adams, or if I was a big online wax seller.
I think that, but here's the thing. I'm excited if they go direct accounts and they're willing to dole out the inventory relatively balanced. Like we've had card shops in Minnesota who've been around when there was only 3 shops.
Yep.
And then the distributors are like, yeah, you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, really?
Yeah,
like, who's going to survive after, it's going to be me, and then you're... So if they were to do that, that would be great. Because for me, it's like, when it's really, really hot, if I could just get a case of every product. Like, I don't need 50 cases of 5, but like the fact that I get 1 box or 0 is just that's difficult.
But the benefit for you is you haven't put yourself in a place where you've become so heavy in debt that there's risk. You're actually doing the opposite.
There are people who have spent $1 million on restocks at the distributor to get allocation, and so that $1 million might turn into $75,000 worth of profit.
Right.
Like there's so little profit in that, but there's so much profit in the allocation. But if it shifts,
there's so much risk.
Like you've outlaid so much for so little,
and you assume
the allocation you get has not as much value.
And you assume you can continue to move that product.
No, you can.
You might not be able to.
Well, put it this way: if your cost is $150 and secondary market's at $1,000, you can cut it to $600 and sell it in 5 seconds.
And one thing we found out about Americans, as I get ready to go to Vegas this week for the World Series of Poker, is they like to gamble, and so Americans are going to want to gamble on sports. And I will say this much: I could see a very unique combination. I have no idea what Fanatics' plans are on this.
No.
But I could see a day when every state has sports books, and sports cards are part of that. Like boxes are sold at your sports book, right? I mean, so I don't know if like
have a breaker at the casino.
Yeah,
and then people are sitting around watching stuff.
Think about this,
John.
Think about you winning a jackpot at a casino as a sports fan. You go to the sports book, you make a bet, and then you buy a box to rip while you watch it. Like that's a reality.
I will say that.
And I'm not even like Nostradamus. That's going to happen.
This is something we should do, and I'm going to say it on this podcast. And if you're one of the 150 people that listen and you take this idea and make money off of it, well, thank you for listening, and this is your reward.
Yes.
Let's say we get to a point where market cooled and you can do what we can normally do, right? You can order 5 cases, sell out, or right before you sell out, order a couple cases, order another case, and then after about 3 months, it's sold out, right? Yep. Why don't me and you, when we get to there, and I believe we're going to get to that point again, and I'm pretty sure. Why don't we go to all the local casinos in the Midwest?
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be a card shop, but supply them all that wax.
Right.
So that those gamblers can go over and bust them.
Because let's be honest, let's say I went to Buffalo Wild Wings or some random bar. I would rather rip a box than pull tabs, and pull tabs are crazy hot. And not only that, if you know the numbers on pull tabs, the rate of return is so much worse than even a good slot machine. It's like 50%.
Yeah, because it goes to charity.
It goes to charity. It goes to charity in Minnesota. Now think about like a bat. I mean, there are boxes where you could lose more.
Now there are.
But you never have the ability for an upside.
Yeah.
Like a sports car box, right?
And that's going back to 4 years ago. That's true. So like you bust a $100 box, you get $50 worth of stuff. You're like, wow, that's a bad box. Now at $800, you can still pull $50 worth of stuff. You get destroyed.
Yeah, you could.
If you don't hit that.
But if you open $800 worth of pull tabs, you could get zero.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, theoretically, you could lose. You could have
absolutely.
zero. Whereas you can't possibly.
So when the
have
market
zero
cools,
return.
man, you are gonna. And then if somebody else wants to take that idea, and all of a sudden we see cards at casinos, I'll be like, oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Someone took advantage of it.
At sports books, which I'm surprised. I don't know. I'm curious. In Vegas, we actually scouted out. We're gonna go to some card shops and go check them out. I'm curious, like what's on the strip and what like how cards have taken off. Because as we talked about Vegas, Dave, last week, cards are a big part of that culture, I would say. But so anyway, Fanatics. The good news is we have a long time.
Right.
We have enough time where markets are really good at adapting, and there's enough people making a living in this market that they're not going to just. It's not going to just. It can't go to nothing.
No, the people who are really
they're going to be creative and
the ones that are really insulated from Fanatics are the ones that buy singles and then sell singles. Or they buy collection and then they sell singles. And if that's all you do, Fanatics is a nothing.
No, because literally all that changes is where the product comes from before it gets to you, but you're still able to get it.
Card shops absolutely need wax. I mean,
huge.
You can survive without wax, but like it wouldn't be all that great.
Well, and not only that, card shops, there's still always going to be a need for a local presence for supplies. Yeah. Even if you buy your box online, we've always talked about that. It's the experience. It's the social aspect. It's the
social aspect is one of the things. Like, you're probably not going to go to a Fanatics store and have a meetup.
No. And that's why card shows still exist. Even in this digital age, even in the age of the internet, you still go to card shows to trade.
How many card shops do we have in Twin Cities now, I think? I've lost count.
Man,
so many of them.
The Beckett, when we first got in the Beckett, I think there was 5. The last time I looked in the baseball Beckett, I think there's 14 listed.
Yeah, and so there's probably I'm not in there.
There's 20, 25.
And so I bet there might be 30. Like even like small ones that nobody knows about.
Well, my buddy's opening one in Buffalo.
And there's probably another 20 game shops that have sports cards, right? So there might be 50, right?
Yeah, there's one in Cedar Lake, the Cedar Lake Collectibles. They have a few
dude,
singles.
One went on University, literally 8 blocks from me. I haven't been there yet. I gotta stop in and say hi.
It's very curious to see.
And it's so that's the thing. It's like, okay, so there's all these card shops, and what did you just say? There's still card shows.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But now let me say this. Here's where the opportunity lies. Think if Fanatics takes over.
Yeah.
And they rebrand, and all the cards are called Fanatics. That's not going to have any effect on a Fleer Tom Brady rookie card. If you own that card, Fanatics can't. There's no way they're circumventing the vintage best players.
I'll tell you this because we just saw it 11 years ago, 12 years ago. The first 4 years of Panini, people hated their cards.
For sure.
Hated their cards because they're so brand loyal to Upper Deck and Topps and they're just like Prism. They're like, oh, Prestige. Like none of the stuff was stuff they wanted, cheap. And so it took a while for the market to accept it, which it did. So
it has to because it's the only option.
Right, it's the only option. So, but Panini wasn't rolling in it when that first happened,
right?
Because people were just like, I don't like it.
Well, let me say this: as an investor, one of the opportunities, like you're pointing out, is anytime there's a transition, those early products are an opportunity to buy and hold,
and maybe hold those cases.
If you have a first-year Prism basketball box,
and by the way, you have to do that while everybody's going, this stuff stinks.
Yes.
I'm never buying cards again, and you'd have to hold through all that noise. Yes. And just go, no, it's just the first issue of whatever this flagship brand is, and this is what I'm going to hold.
Well, and that's where I personally came to the revelation where we have talked about this story so often of, man, I remember being at card shows and seeing 86 Fleer sets and seeing Jordans. I remember when I started in 2014 going to shows, seeing Jordan rookies for $800, $1,000. You're like, man, that's a lot of money, right?
No.
Now I'm wishing I would have bought them all, and now saying Tom Brady's that guy.
But here's the thing: while you were running the business, you couldn't have bought them all.
No, right?
Right, because whenever you got a Jordan, you had to sell it to make the money to buy the next piece of inventory to sell that. So now, if you came into it like straight up millionaire, yeah, absolutely.
But I'm talking to a lot of people right now that have an opportunity that like don't only have this hindsight of, if I would have just bought Giannis rookies in 2013.
We're in an opportunity.
There's an opportunity right now. That's the whole thing. Is there's something in front of you.
You have to identify it though. That's the problem.
Yep.
Looking back to these.
And you can't just get so caught up in the current. Okay. You can't not.
You can.
You can.
You can.
Yes. Two negatives equal a positive. It's important to, even though it's easier to look at the ones I missed and miss the one that's there now.
There's so many. We talked about this plenty. Like we do always talk about like, I sold that car and it's blown up. Now it does hurt when you sold something for $5,000 and it's $1 million car now.
Yep.
But outside of that, that's a real thing. You can live with that forever.
Well, here's the question: what's the next $1 million card? That's my question.
Right. And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
The other one is, except for that, you can live with that and beat yourself up for the rest of your life. That I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't have one of those, it's like, how much stuff I've sold.
Yeah.
That not a thing.
And so here's then the other question is, how can I position myself where I can afford to actually hold some of those things? And one of those things is not always just taking on more debt, like you're saying. So a lot of these businesses look and go, rather than taking on more debt, I just continue to roll my profits.
No.
You know what I mean? And then decide to like hold something that I'm able to buy low grade.
I do have a one. So I wasn't able to take advantage of this because right when I opened, it all blew up.
Mm-hmm.
At 2019 National, you had sold a bunch of cars to these guys from China.
Yep.
Right?
Shanghai.
And who were they buying?
Kobe, Curry, and LeBron. They bought everything we had.
And would they buy any other player?
No, they didn't buy Jordan. They didn't buy anybody else.
Oh, they didn't buy Jordan?
No.
Oh, okay. So I thought
they didn't buy Jordan because I think Jordan.
Nobody knows who it was.
It's the older generation.
Okay.
It's like they were buying the.
But you know what's great about that? Whenever I go to the National every year for the rest of my life, I'm going to find the guys from China, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, who are you buying?
Yeah.
Those are the guys you should be stashing away.
Yep.
Because they have penetrated so much to and who knows, maybe the next card market's like Uganda or whatever. So I'm going to go find the Uganda dealers. Who are you buying? Oh, those two guys? Done.
Those two guys done.
I'm not selling any of those guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's one of those things. I remember you saying that, and I go, oh, when I open the shop, every time I get Kobe's and Curry's, I'm just gonna not sell them.
Right.
But
it's interesting because the SMR,
because it got too fast.
The SMR guide, you get it monthly from PSA. Probably the guy on the cover this month was Curry, which Curry has transitioned from. There's very few of these guys. Brady's one of them, Curry's one of them, and LeBron that are currently active in their sport. Yet they've already become a legend in the sport.
How many championships does Curry have?
He's got
three or four.
Three.
Three.
So he's already at a place.
If he gets one more, that really does cement him. Like 3 is a big deal.
But not only that, he's going to this season become the all-time leader in 3-point shots made, and he's nowhere near past his prime.
No.
I mean, he's at the tail. He's maybe near the end
31?
of the middle. I think he's 33. I think he's 33.
He's at the end of the middle.
He's at the end of the middle. Yep, he's beginning the
third
end.
stage.
But as a shooter, he'll be able to shoot long after. Like a lot of guys who are dependent on, they can't shoot, but they can. It's all athletic
the
ability.
big men can last.
Yep.
Because they just, you get stronger as you get older. You don't get weaker. And then the shooter, it's the slasher.
It's Ray Allen. Think about Ray Allen. He went from being much more of a dominant superstar to just a role-playing shooter.
But he's not gonna
and that's the guy Curry's surpassing.
Right.
And he's literally like 7 years younger or something.
Nuts.
When Ray Allen does. So I think Curry's kind of transcended that stratosphere of, anyway. So.
All right, well, that's the thing. It's like, look, it's something we got to watch it. I mean, it'd be dumb to have a business in this field and not watch Fanatics, what they're doing.
Yep.
But,
I think baseball card shops are going to be the next Blockbusters that literally are non-existent? I don't.
No.
But now there is going to be some transition to streaming.
I will tell you this, though. There's a lot of people who are in it and don't really know what they're doing, and it's just easy money thing. Those guys are going to go out.
which isn't fine.
And they might be going out no matter what. They might go out before Fanatics.
And not only that, they would go out in any industry. Yeah. So don't take them going out as though the card industry isn't legitimate.
I'll say something. So Norm Macdonald, Norm Macdonald. So he recently passed away. And one of the things he said, he was talking about Trump. Mm-hmm. And he was doing an interview, and they said, is Trump making it comedy better? Because, Trump's hilarious, right? He's hilarious.
Gives a lot of sound bites.
It's hilarious for me to make fun of him. And everything about him is funny. And what he said was, he goes, it makes it really easy for bad comedians. Because it's such an easy thing. So it's the same thing, like when the market's really hot, and this is true in real estate and stocks and crypto, and it doesn't matter what the market is. When it's really hot, really bad actors can be very successful.
Right.
And so even if we get a cool down, a significant cool down in the next 18 months, and that's 18 months before Fanatics takes over, a lot of these shops are just going to go.
Yeah.
They're not in it, They're just not in it. And so the other thing with me, I'll add, and this, let's say the card stuff just, I'm doing it, but it's not enough. I just dive right back into the apparel, So I've diversified enough in the auction house, and I'll put it this way. How about this? We got K-Bid, right?
Yep.
And then me and you got K-Bid. How about the market cools and you're buying 5 times more collection, then we need a place to liquidate all this stuff.
Right.
And we've developed
those I will say this. I noticed immediately after the $600 unemployment got lifted, we saw an immediate influx and opportunity to buy. Like we had, and I looked at Mike. I'm like, what happened this week that all of a sudden and I'm like, the $600 now. Like literally, we had 15 people come in. I'm like, this is abnormal.
No, here's something else. So, like I said, I think this podcast is going to be very business oriented. Here's the other thing with we
will rip on the Yankees. They're down 3-0 to Boston, so go Boston. We
may eat your words by the end of the podcast.
Can't wait. For the Yankees
so here's the other thing too is you just mentioned the labor shortage.
Yeah.
And I don't, who knows? But if everything dries up, and there's no government money coming in, there's going to be a labor surplus.
Yes.
And if you're smart, you're going to take advantage of that and find really key people that you can build your business with.
Right.
And you don't have to take just anybody who comes in. You can go, I really like this person.
Yep.
And I can make this person a critical part of my business, and we can grow together really well.
And as you build and develop your own skill, you basically become you're not dependent upon an employer or someone else because you've developed something that can come and go. Like, let's say we weren't able to get wax. Like, we know enough about cards that we figure it out. We can still find ways to be profitable.
It's my path, like I said, I would put it out there. Hey, grab boxes. I'm paying this much, or throw it on my shelves. I'm charging 13% commission or whatever it is, and you would just be buying. You would say, order what you can, bring it to the shop. We'll buy it at this rate, and then good to go.
Yep. And the beauty of it is, we're still, if we buy it and there's still a demand for it, as long as there's a strong market for it,
and if there's no demand,
we can still
for
make a margin.
Then you can order as much as you want off the website.
Right.
So what difference does it make?
So what does it make?
You still need a.
Well, and then actually, if it really cools off, then Fanatics comes to us and goes, "Will you please help us sell this?"
And then they'll give us a great price. So no matter what, you can adjust. And
100%.
And so we'll flow into. So that's the end of that. I'm not super worried.
Not super.
But it's not.
It's something to keep in mind and something for us to watch and observe.
Extend on that, then I've hired 2 new people for the store, and both of them are long-term customers. And what I like about that, I mean, I kind of want to talk about sort of what I want to happen. There's no guarantee. What does God do when you plan stuff? Have a chuckle. And so it's like, all right, good luck with that. I don't believe in the vengeful God. I believe in the prankster God, where he's like, oh, that's what you think you're gonna do? Okay. Let's see what happens when I do that.
It's funny because there's actually a scripture in the Bible that says,
is he a prankster?
It says, when the nations try to plot things against him, he sits in heaven and laughs.
Yeah,
he laughs because it's. Think of it, if you actually created everything, which he did, it's pretty funny to watch your creation think they're going to overthrow it.
Right. I think it's
not really how it works.
I would think of it as a prankster.
And I think he has a sense of humor.
If you are all knowing, right? If you're all knowing, all powerful, omnipotent, everything, then if you didn't have a sense of humor, that would be a weakness, and God doesn't have a weakness.
Oh, and I'll say even more than that. The Bible says we're made in His image, and if we enjoy humor, He enjoys it. It actually says laughter is good medicine. It's actually made.
So, that's really cool. So my philosophy on hiring in the early stages, and if I can accomplish this, I can be super happy, is I really want to hire from a pool of customers, of people I know, that are I know that because like both of these guys, I probably talked to them at least 25 hours over the last year and a half or last year change.
Just in passing.
Yeah, just talking about cards and whatever.
And are they primarily Pokemon guys, or are they?
They are primarily Pokemon, but both of them do sports.
Okay,
so they have that.
Dual threat.
Dual threat. They're both dual threat.
They're Lamar Jackson.
And so right away, it's just like, so then the goal is, all right, as I'm a micro business, it's like, okay, I got some low level work to do, stuff to do on the side, sorting, cleaning, some of that might be covering the floor, whatever. And what's cool is, and I talk to both of them about this, what I really like about that is, that all that is a interview for both of us.
Right.
Because if I go, hey, sort these cards, and he's like, cool, and then he does it for 2 weeks, and then he's like, I don't like it here. I'm not out anything. He's not out anything.
Yep.
I made this massive commitment. It just like John's jokes are horrible. I can't handle this guy. Like how that thing where you're like these best friends for like 5 years, and then they get an apartment together and they hate each other's guts.
Yeah.
It's kind of that thing. Like we can have your grand old time, and then the second I go, I can't say something properly without irritating them, right? Or they irritate me, right? And so it's such a low level of separation, which is nice. But at the flip side, it's like, come in, you're on task, you're doing stuff. I'm working, I'm just sitting there and do this and watching them, And he's like, oh, okay, John's trying to grow this business. So seeing that from me, and then I'm seeing from him, like, oh, he's on task. He's trying to help me grow this business. What's really cool is now we can identify key employees, key partners within that business.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping that the next 2.5 years, I can identify a handful of people that can help me grow this business. And what's cool is at the end, I'm going, not at the end, but like as I'm, so my store is extremely small. And so I'll need to get a larger location, and then I'll want to do some investment. And so what I'll do is I'll establish a C Corp, and I can literally with, maybe it's nobody, but maybe it's one, maybe it's three, I can literally sell shares to those guys so they can have ownership in the business, and we can go. And what's nice about C Corp is shares. So, like, literally, the investment can be made, and they go, I quit. Okay, that's cool. Like, maybe that's not cool. I don't want to quit, but you still own some of the business. I have the investment, and then we'll distribute dividends. And nice thing about corporations is, like, it's so simple for owners to come in and out. Without
and you don't
lots
need
of entanglements.
And you don't need to be an employee to own shares. And you don't need to be a shareholder. You don't. But
it allows for me to easily go, hey, as a bonus, or you can invest a certain amount and be like, I'll sell this much. And that's great. That's a great. And also too, a little business thing is, if there's under 100 investors in a C Corp, you can still be an S Corp and not get taxed twice.
Right.
So that's kind of a cool thing.
Man, I hate taxes. I just was dealing with them today.
Did you really?
I have an off-air story for you later.
Oh, did you really? Because I have a line item and something to talk about.
Well,
finished my taxes at 6 a.m. This morning.
Yeah,
I'm on 3 hours sleep.
I have 10 more days, but I'm.
My mother-in-law said you got 2 weeks, and they keep half your refund if you don't file on time. I was like, all right.
No, that's not true. You get a penalty. That's not true. I just talked to my accountant. No.
If you go past the extension, have you ever done it?
If you go past the extension and you owe money, you owe money.
Oh, right. But if
they owe you money, you can go as long past as you want.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. So here's either she lied to me and it got me to do it.
She's wrong.
Or
she's wrong.
She's telling the truth and you don't know. So I don't know.
We'll
look it up.
My accountant, I'll take her advice over your.
Did you literally ask that question?
Yes, we had this conversation. She goes, you owe some money. we need to make sure we get it filed.
No. Have you ever had a refund and then had a conversation about if I go past the extension?
They can't keep your money, John. It's illegal. They can fine you, but the fines are very minimal. Like me, I think I owe about $10,000 on the 15th.
Yeah.
And I think my penalty if I go past is the equivalent of like a couple $100.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's double. It's not 100%.
Either way,
penalty.
it got done.
It got done.
And so first.
Oh, he's out. Nice throw.
First year in business, Yankees were about to go 3-2 and got thrown out at home.
Wow, that was a play.
Stanton had a double. So what happened was I finished the book. I had a really good idea where I was at.
Yep.
But you don't know until you're done. And I not only did so I thought my goal was to break even. And then at the end of last year, I was like, I think I made like $50 maybe. Like, I thought like maybe I made a little money.
Yeah.
And so what it turns out, I made $2,000.
Nice.
So I put in over 4,000, but let's say it's 4,000 hours. I made 50 cents an hour. Whoop whoop. Now,
50 cents an hour.
Here's the thing: you can tell who understands entrepreneurship and who doesn't by telling them something like that.
Right.
Because if you say, "Hey, my first year in business, I made $2,000," and if the person goes, "Oh man, that's awesome," that person's likely an entrepreneur, understands how that works. If someone looks at you like in horror, you're like, I don't think you get like what I'm saying to you.
You're meant to be an employee.
I'll put it this way: I have not lost money. You understand how amazing this is?
Well, and not only that, you actually haven't. You've made more than that if you value your inventory into that.
No, absolutely. So we can talk a little bit, right? So I actually have 3 numbers, right?
Yeah.
I made a $2,000 taxable profit.
Taxable profit, yep.
Had you taken away the depreciation, because I do accrual, I don't do cash.
Yep.
So I split the startup costs by 4 years and each equal parts, and then each year I'll depreciate
which lowers
down.
your tax burden in the long run versus taking it immediately on a lower number, which is good.
And what's nice for this year is we don't need that.
You don't need it now. You're going to need it more in 4 years. So it's better to push
money,
back.
right?
Yep.
And so if there was no there's no startup, so this is called a marginal profit.
Yep.
That means just profit from operation.
Yep.
$6,500, right? Nice. And then, but on the flip side, had I taken all the depreciation for startup, I would have lost $10,000.
Right.
So it's funny how there's 3 different numbers. They're all true, and they're different numbers.
It's all about which tax year you're placing that expense.
And I'll tell you the exact number. I'm kind of a share, but I'm already 70% more sales than I was last year.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
And I got a quarter left, so we got 1 quarter left.
And you not only that, you have the best quarter left.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's going to be the best 4th quarter ever, but it's the best quarter of this year. It's the best quarter of the year generally.
I would argue for sports cars. So sports cars a car shop is weird because you don't get the Christmas money. Well, I shouldn't say that. You don't get the Christmas present money. What you get is
you get the stocking money.
What you get is the money you get from Christmas, and so what happens is we always have a really good first quarter.
January is actually
first quarter is really good.
We get I'll say this much.
Fourth quarter is not as high.
We get gift cards. We get a lot of like $20 to $40 purchases from parents where we're stuffing packs in their
and that's true, but it's not as much as like a Target would get or Walmart.
No,
they don't. We're an afterthought.
So like if you're gonna break down the pie, it's the collectible market's 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's disposable income that's being spent on our and there's some investment money, which the more investment money that comes in, the bigger portion of the pie we get, which is
so 4th quarter is the best quarter, but it's not as good as maybe what Target from a percentage standpoint. But first quarter is really great.
First quarter is really very, very, very good.
And so
that's the weather. Cool. You know what else is good about the 4th quarter is we don't like this here in Minnesota. As the weather gets colder, there's less other things to do, and so people spend more time inside. They watch more sports. They get,
and then the sports are with basketball and
we
football.
We have the dream season coming right now, where in about 3 weeks the NBA. The NFL, hockey, and baseball are all going. So it's,
How long did that last? It's like 2 weeks or something like that?
It's the end of October. It's 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. Very short, but it's fun.
But the beauty of it is,
now if I liked hockey, it would be even better.
It's the exact opposite of the desert of July, where all you have is baseball. So.
Well, I don't know. I mean, me and Evan are okay with that. Yeah. Like you come up to me, it's only baseball. I'm like, hey, what's the problem?
Hey, you and 10% of the country.
Well, no, because it's like you understand that he's raised his average this week 4 points, and he was that's a baseball guy for you. So that's cool, and then some PSA information.
Yeah, let's talk PSA for a minute.
So there's a website that I didn't know about. We should put a link to his TikTok because I stole it from him.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, if I see one of the things is like if he steals something from me, I won't get mad at you because I'll totally steal from you. He did a TikTok this morning or
what's the
whatever
website, John?
Called gemrate.com. And all it is a site that mines the population report for PSA, and then they extrapolate information.
Yep.
So it's not perfect, but I assume it's really accurate because all they do is say, oh, this many more cards went in, so they must have like
Guess what the PSA annual grading rate is. Guess how many cards they're grading annually right now?
I have it all written down, so I don't have to guess.
It's pretty amazing.
So right now, today, I went, what's this? And I looked at it and I went, oh, this is awesome. Yesterday, they graded 26,316 cards.
Yep.
In the last 30 days, they've graded 773,192 cards. And in the last year, they're at 9.5 million cards. And so that's just what eBay, PSA is churning out. That does include SGC, who's gotten a bump, and Beckett, who is screwing everything up. I don't know what they're doing.
9.5 million is an and I don't know.
What do you think Beckett is? 20% of PSA? 30%? 40%?
Less.
Less than 20?
I personally send about 4 to 8% to Beckett, or less.
Let's say
5% maybe.
But you're a PSA lover too. There are Beckett lovers. So
yeah, but
let's say 30.
But I'll tell you, I know all the big submitters in Minnesota.
Yeah. And you think it's 20?
They literally don't even send 10%.
Okay, so that's 2 million, and then SGC might be a half. So we're talking 13 million cards. I mean, that's a very rough. If you quote me on that,
do you think? I don't know if PSA is grading every day, but if they were grading 365 days a year, they're averaging about 26,000. Which it's interesting. 26,000. Yesterday they did 26,000, which is like the number actually lines up.
Right.
So
you think they're not working on weekends?
I didn't know if they were on
Sundays.
Sundays.
They must be.
You think so? I think
because here's the thing: when you get that big, to leave terminals, to leave computer, to leave all that stuff fallow, and you have that many employees who could definitely use,
So you think they're working like 3? Are they doing like 3 swing shifts? You think?
Maybe I don't know, but there's no real. There's come to the point where a 24-hour shift's a real thing. Like now usually 3 shifts is particularly difficult, but a lot of times they do 2 shifts, but 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So I would.
Well, I will say this much: you can tell if you look at their days.
Now,
there's some days where they're only grading 800 cards a day.
Oh,
okay. So
then it's just like a little blurb, maybe. Yep. Well, here's the thing, though. They're only updating it at the population report updates. So if they just don't update the population report, that doesn't tell you exactly what they. So like their 26,000 might not be 26,000. It's just like it updated the pop report that much.
Yep.
So that's why when you see these numbers, you can't be
just
like,
keep in mind. I believe I saw the number. Like the first 10 years of existence, PSA only did a couple million cards.
Yeah.
So literally, we're talking. They did 10 million in 1 year.
5 times this year than they did the
first 10 years. So
that's
crazy. Let me ask you this: how does that concern you when it comes to the relevance of the value of some of those cards?
We had this conversation right before you showed up. Thank you, Matt, for stopping by. We had a nice, productive conversation. Help with podcast. What up, Matt? So one of the things we talked about, because it was a customer, was buying some stuff, and Matt was here, and we were just having a fun chat. Well, here's the thing. One of the things that when supply goes up, price normally
comes down,
falls. Okay, so that's fair. And I don't think that's untrue, and I do think prices will fall, right? But one of the things that people don't think about is these 10 million cards are going to get churned over and over and over again because of all the repack companies.
Yep.
So literally, let's say there was 100 cards period. There's only 100 cards in all the hobby. The Repack Companies can literally make 100 packs of one graded card, sell them. People bust them because they want to bust something. Sell them back to a dealer. The dealer will sell them the Repack Companies. They'll make 100 repacks or 90 repacks. And then, because 10 people will keep their card. And then
a couple people lost.
They could probably churn through it 6 times before all 100 cards are done. So there is a lot of demand between Repack Companies, fractional ownership. There's a lot of emerging businesses, and I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. For all I know, everything's going to keep
I will say this
for a
much.
while.
When I had the opportunity today to finalize a deal on my first Tom Brady rookie PSA 10, I was blown away with, he's been in the league 21 years. No. This card was made in 2000. And people have been grading a lot in the last 10 years. There's only 105 of this card in 10. There's no
incentive not to grade.
So there's certain cards that I'm not concerned with how many there are, but of that 9.5 million they've graded this year, I would say 60%, I don't know, I'm making up a number, 60% of them have a real risk of, I'm not saying falling to zero, but we've seen plenty of Achilles Smiths and Chad Penningtons,
Absolutely.
and you got one on the wall over there.
By the way, you should grade Chad Pennington. He was a beast.
He was a beast.
Like, why wouldn't you grade Chad Pennington? Achilles Smith was awesome. You know what Achilles Smith was? Achilles Smith was basically Cam Newton.
He was Cam
Newton. Except
Newton.
he wasn't Cam Newton.
The problem is he wasn't the one you wanted to hold.
Yeah,
right?
And so, I mean, I talk about this, too. Actually kind of came to this conclusion, like, as I was talking to a customer. So, like, let's say a new product comes out. Let's just say, again, I'm going back to, it's the only product that gets released.
Yep.
In the first year that product gets released, let's say all unopened wax is $100 retail.
Yep.
And all of it got open.
Yep.
There's nobody stashing anything. My Pokemon seal collector is like, no, don't open it. What am I going to put in my carry case? So that $100 becomes like $80 in value, $85 in value. It doesn't really matter. But what happens over the course of the product, over the course of 10 years, 12 years. So the first year, every rookie card and a lot of the stars all have value and or potential. So the cards are mainly potential. The stars are like, is he going to be the Hall of Famer or not? Or is he going to be the GOAT or not? As years go by, though, people get hurt.
Potential
the stars get hurt,
get
or
older.
The players can't perform.
They're out of the league.
Or like we were talking about Andrew Jones, like for 6 years he was like first ballot Hall of Famer, no problem, and then just I think injuries and what have you. And so what happens is that $100 product becomes like a $35 product. There's only $35 of value. But those $35 are all in 4 cards.
Right.
Or 4 players.
Yeah.
And it's not, so part of the game of cards is who you gonna buy.
Right.
And that's true with grading. We're grading so much.
Well, and that's why
all of the value is gonna go in 5% of the card, 10% of the card.
And that's why unopened product is one of the safest ways to capture the value.
It's the mutual fund. So big guy, you got a partial of everything that's left in the product.
So all you need is to get a year where somebody lasts.
So 2006 football, horrible.
Right.
Horrible. Who is the best player, best rookie in 2006
Matt
football?
Leinart, I don't know, Reggie Bush, Vince Young.
There's one Hall of Famer.
Frank Gore, right? No, he's 05.
No, he's 05. There's one Hall of Famer on the offense. There might be a couple on defense. I'm not sure. Kind of offense. Yeah, it is offense. Devin Hester. The kick returner is the best guy in the 06 draft.
Right.
That's not a defense. There might be a Greenway. That was Greenway's year and AJ Hawk's year. But you know what the best card is?
What's that?
Aaron Rodgers' second year K.
Or Tom Brady.
Tom Brady
refractor.
So it's probably Rodgers, then Brady, and then there might be somebody else, and then Devin Hester.
Yeah.
So you can. So one of the theories is you don't just go all in on 1 year.
Right.
So like Bowman draft, you just literally buy a case every year and you put it in the closet. And sometimes it's 2007, which was really a hyped year, but didn't quite last. And then you also have 09 with Trout.
Right.
And if you do it every year, you're not going to miss. Yep. And that's been a strategy since the 80s I've heard of.
Yep.
one case of Bowman. Like when Bowman came out in 90s.
And especially in football when you have offensive players leading. Right. Now, I'll say this much. As Derek Carr and obviously the Raiders have played well, and even Bridgewater and the Broncos, like if you had a 2014, you know what I noticed at the show this weekend in Bloomington was a lot of people had Derek Carr's out, and they were able to finally sell him for the first time in a long time, right? And you saw a good so if you had all of a sudden you had 14 whacks, this is the time to sell it.
What did Matt say that he pulled out right before he left? Oh shoot, what was the player?
Oh, he pulled all the
from his closet. Man, it's killing me.
What sport was he talking? Was it?
Football. Wide receiver, Browns.
Oh, the guy who had drug issues for the Browns. Josh
Gordon. He's like, pull out my Gordon. I'm like, that is the most Matt thing I've ever heard in my life.
I mean, literally, the window to sell Josh Gordon is like, literally
Josh Gordon's worth nothing.
The time that he has the potential to sign somewhere, and then once he actually gets signed and doesn't do anything.
Matt pulled 22 cents worth of Josh Gordon from a week ago. But yeah, I mean, if you're ready for it. So what's your? I mean, I talked. Are you worried about graded cards just being
I'm worried. Nothing? I'm worried about the bulk base. Like, I'll tell you this. So I just got an order back. I was much happier with my 90s order where I sent Kobe's, Jordans, LeBrons, than I was with. And at the time, the potential was I sent a bunch of Tyler Heroes. I sent a bunch of, I didn't send Bull, but a bunch of customers sent Bull. All these guys I mean, you got, in that drive class, though, was Tyler Hero not maybe the third or fourth best prospect?
Okay, here's the PSA. Stop. So, Bull than nothing.
Yeah,
Let's
so,
just stop.
So the young guys that we sent, that's
Kobe White.
Now there can be some real upside if you happen to send, who becomes the next Tom Brady,
PJ Washington,
for a week or two, or but I personally would much rather send a bunch of 90s inserts of Jordan and Kobe, because think about this. Right now, what is there being no more produced of in the market in cards? No more Michael Jordan Bulls cards are being produced. They haven't been since what year?
But even if they were, the new ones wouldn't be what the vintage.
So right now you have some Goodwin champions. So the supply on the greatest player of all time in basketball is capped. So
that's the other thing. I want to go back to Fanatics real quick. If they buy a company, I don't want it to be Tops. I want it to be Upper Deck. So
you want them to make exquisite and have Jordan
Flair basketball.
Yeah,
and Upper Deck makes the nicest cards.
Upper Deck does make arguably the nicest cards. No, I mean, I think that's on a selfish note. I feel the same way. I mean, I kind of like collecting hockey almost because of the quality.
The allure is beautiful.
Well, and the cup is just it's exquisite.
Flair metal, but Flair basketball. A lot of people are talking about baseball, and they're like Tops is baseball, and that's true, but Flair is basketball.
Yeah, so I think there's tons of potential. Here's the other thing is, who knows how much longer, if Fanatics goes, that Tom Brady doesn't become no longer in the new products once he retires. Like there's these opportunities.
I don't want to say own Tom Brady. Does Tom Brady have a deal with Fanatics?
He has signed with Fanatics.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if he has some sort of exclusivity with him.
Oh, he would have to. I know they took a page out of Upper Deck's book. Oh, that's the other thing. Upper Deck has Jordan, LeBron, Griffey, Gretzky.
Yeah. They got McDavid. They got
So
they don't have Brady.
I want Fanatics. If they got to do one company, it's got to be Upper Deck. Well, here's the other thing too. So let's say there's a big flood of nonsense slabs.
Yep.
Again, go back to the repack. Now instead of one graded card, it can be 5 graded cards.
Right.
We're just buying them all for $1 a slab.
Yep.
And
the big winner in that is PSA, because PSA is basically saying we're taking no risk. We're making the money to grade them, regardless of if
that's one of the reasons why they got to be working around the clock. They don't want to.
Yeah, the window.
You gotta make that money.
They're not going to be grading 9.5 million cards every year for the remainder of.
So going back to what you said though, is on the low end and on the ultra modern.
Yep.
So there was an advantage to sending low end guys and unknown guys, because the goal was, if you send in a basket of those players, so like every skill position,
every Prism Silver basketball
of anybody, right? And then what the goal was, most of them are going to pan out, but the guy who will, I'm going to be the only one that has them. Here's the problem: everybody's sending in that stuff. That strategy is not going to help anymore.
And if you notice here's what I've noticed in the market recently, there's been a massive shift towards vintage. When I go to the shows now, a significant amount of money, more so than even with younger collectors, is being spent on some of this vintage because here's what they realize: the supply is limited. 33 Gaudy, Babe Ruth.
Oh yeah.
There's no. I don't know if there's a known unopened box.
I've seen a couple.
I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a known unopened pack left. There probably is in someone's collection.
It's shocking what is.
But it is like, oh my gosh. So if I was a collector. Now, I like selling wax. I like opening the new thing, and I like watching the guy become a star or not.
Absolutely.
But if I was thinking about investment, I would think back towards those lines.
That has always been the advice.
Yeah.
Wax is fun. Prospecting is fun and can be lucrative. Okay,
unopened wax.
Opening boxes is fun and not lucrative.
Gambling. It's like playing a
straight
slot.
Up gambling. Straight up pull tab.
Yep.
Prospecting is fun and can be lucrative.
Yes.
Buying vintage is your blue chip mutual fund.
Yep.
Like, okay, it's gonna be worth more than in 20 years than it is today.
And now think about this: when we were little, when I went to my first card show, I was 8, so it would have been 1992.
Oh my, I might have thought you there.
92, 93, Harmar Mall.
I would have
Roseville.
been the older kid.
And people didn't really view 70s at that point as vintage.
No. Well, it was, but no.
They viewed 50s as vintage.
We had an argument about this at the National. Did we ever talk about that?
The 75 cutoff for vintage?
Yeah. So I don't think we talked about it. Let's talk about it. So
what defines vintage?
So I go off of the Beckett, the number one name in sports cards opinion that anything before 1980 is vintage because 1980 is the year when it went from one manufacturer to 3, and then that set off the modern era. I don't even remember your argument about 75 because it was so silly. So I refresh my memory.
Well, okay, so let's broaden this conversation for a second to other industries. Every industry has their own definition of vintage or antique.
Apparel, 20 years.
Technically, the phrase antique means 100 years or older, right? So you have the
vintage
antique
tends to mean 20 years or older.
Yep. And so in apparel, what's the cutoff?
20 is 20 years.
It's
so it's a rolling average. There's no years. Just whatever. So next year, 2001 becomes vintage, which makes me feel super old.
And so here's how I've come to it because I'm a set guy, a vintage baseball set collector.
Yeah.
I cut it off at 75 because there came a point, 76 and later, where it was so inexpensive to buy commons that it was easier to buy the complete set than it was to put the set together. 75 is kind of the last year where people actually, in my opinion, from what I've observed of collectors, they actually put the set together, meaning they buy the cards individually or in lots, right? Now, 1980, I don't remember when the first factory set was made for Topps. Do you know?
I don't know if 80 had factory sets.
I don't think they do. I think it's mid-80s. I know there's 85s because I've sold them. I don't know if there's an 84 factory set.
Not sure.
So I would say if you...
Now, are you making an argument 85 in the beginning?
No, I was saying if I was going to use your definition, I would have to roll it further forward to 85.
I love how my argument is anything before 80, you say anything 75 or older, but now you just made an argument that it might be anything older than 85.
No, so when I say vintage...
I don't think we're jumping on that one.
If you look at like the Vintage Collector magazine, I think it goes up to 79, I think. Yeah. But
because that's the Beckett rule. Like, I mean, I'm going off of the
you're going off why they've defined it that way. And also, if you look at the drop-off in set values, 75 is the year where the value of the set literally goes from... I'm going back a few years.
Yeah.
The 75 set was worth 300. The 76 set was worth 100.
So the 78 set's a good set. The 79 set, is there any? What's in 79? Ozzy.
No. Yep. 79's Ozzy. 80's.
So
you have key rookies in each.
Here's
one.
the thing.
Which, by the way,
80's got Ricky, so I could argue.
By the way, I just got back the highest graded Ozzy I've ever sent.
Yeah. That's a hard card.
Got a PSA 8. The thing, they're always off center. They're always print errors. I was like, wow,
cut bad.
This thing is so nice.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'll never grade a 9, I'm sure, in my life on that card. That card is, I've literally owned hundreds, and I've only sent a handful.
I've heard of I've never looked at Pop Report, but I've heard of that Ozzy just being like,
it's just ridiculous.
Unbelievable. And so what happened? So the story being during National was we were battling for like 2 or
well, and I had a
2 days of it.
Reputable individual on my side.
Yeah,
Steve. What up, Steve?
What up, Steve?
And Steve knows more about his background cards longer than you and I.
Side.
He was on my side, so thank you for that, Steve.
So then my booth, I was right across from a dealer who's been a dealer for 40 years, maybe, like from the beginning. And we even talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, I was buying cards on secondary market in the early 70s." Okay. So, and then I said, so we posed it to him, like he's OG, right? And he went on my side, and when that happened, Steve started willing to go, okay, maybe John's right.
He tried to win Steve over.
Yeah, well, no, I think he has so much respect for a guy who has been in it for literally 40 years, 50 years.
Here's what would be my...
And he's like, nah, yeah.
Here's our research to really resolve this question. I want to see the production difference between 75, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 80. Right?
No, let's be
when
very
does
clear
the
about
production skyrocket? I think
in 1980 because there's 3 manufacturers. Clint.
No, I'm saying with Topps specifically. How many cards did Topps make? I bet from 75 to 76 and 7, it almost triples. In other words, how many cards I see in existence?
How about this? I guarantee in 1980 it tripled again.
Yes, but when did it start tripping? I bet if you look at 70, 71, 2, 3, 4, it's very
I think I'm with
consistent.
it. Well, see, here's the thing. This is a philosophical conversation in which there is no answer. Yep. But if you guys have a position, like, definitely comment about this one.
I would love to get people's opinions on this.
I would. I mean, I got Beckett on my side, so I think that. But you make an interesting argument. It's not. I've never heard that argument before. By the way, you said it, and I'm like, where is this coming from?
Well, and I give this speech every day when people call the shop and they go, "Hey, what are you guys buying?" I said, "Here's what we're buying.
Yeah,
we're buying pre-1975 in any sport.
No,
and that's my cutoff because I'm not buying a lot of 79 Topps common baseball.
No,
cards.
not common.
I don't want commons. I do, and that's the
argument.
That's the difference. I want 75 commons.
No,
I don't want 76.
74. What does 74 look like?
Dave Winfield's rookie year. It's white with a.
Yeah, those commons aren't worth.
No, they're worth a lot more than. Yeah, there's.
Is that black back?
There's 2 different backs, and there's some errors in that set.
Oh yeah, okay.
So 75 is that real colorful set, and it's got George Brett and Robin Yount, and that's kind of. And I think some of this is related to the rookies, right? Because then you go 76, it's like. Bruce Sutter. It's like who? Okay, Dennis Eckersley. There's not really much, right?
The only, it's 2 pitchers.
Yeah, Eckersley, and then 78. Now you come back with
Eddie Murray and Molitor.
But then 79, 80. There's a lot more. I'll say this much: there's a lot more Ricky Henderson and Ozzie Smith rookies than there are Robin.
You know what's funny is I see Ricky all the time. I never see Ozzie rookies.
You don't see Ozzie?
Not at shows. Maybe I'm
so
not
now
looking
you're making
for him.
your point. I like
no,
that.
No, maybe I'm not looking for him. Yeah, because they're really limited, so you never see them.
I want to look up Pop. I'm gonna do some research on Pop reports.
I don't know. I'm gonna get everybody on my side. Like, well, no, I mean, it's like I'm cheating. Yeah. Oh, Baggett says that? Okay, cool. Done. Okay. But my argument's so simple. It's it went from one side.
And I think your argument's fine. The 5-year difference. The big difference for me is like if someone comes in with a pure 5,000 count box of 1980 Topps commons, I just go, it's no different than 81.
Oh, thanks. You just more ammo on my side of the argument.
No, but I'm saying 79 and 80 and 81 are all the same. 75 is where I go, now I'm interested in just commons. So that's just me.
I think a batch of 78 commons would be good, and I think a batch of 79 commons is better than. Well, I'll put it this way. How about this?
Yeah.
79 Topps commons versus 80 Topps commons. Far and away, you're taking the 79. Like it's not even close. I mean, you're taking the 79, no problem.
Say that again. 79 versus.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing 80 Topps and 79 Tops, you're taking 79 Tops.
79 is phenomenal. It's better.
But again, it's philosophical. It was a fun. I like to have fun
make
battles.
Sure everyone listening, give us your feedback. We want to do a poll on this one. We want to find out when.
I'll do it. I can do it. I'll do a TikTok video on it and just be like, "What's up?" That's very cool.
Tell us when.
I don't know if I have. So I talk about taxes. Oh, I got one. So this is kind of interesting. So we talked about the MVP race, and everybody, we're pretty sure it's going to be Ohtani, but there's only one other guy it could be, is Vlad.
Yep.
The NL race is up for grabs somewhat. You think that too? I really think it's Harper.
Harper, Tatis, or Soto, right? Those three.
But were you here when we were talking about that? Just real quick. Okay, so you said, I can't remember what you said. It made me think
my question was I'm not gonna say veteran. I'm not gonna define their age necessarily, but I'm not thinking prospect.
Yeah.
Which player has the greatest opportunity in this postseason to kind of cement their legacy from good to legend, like what Jeter did, what Reggie Jackson did, what all these guys did in big postseason games.
Let's put a pin on that one because that's a good topic and it had nothing to do with what I was about to say.
Okay, nice.
So, but what you said was, I said Harper because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Harper, and you kind of said something and you were like, well, his values haven't really gone up, which is true.
Harper's not even in the
So here's what's interesting. We've talked about this plenty of times before. We talked about LeBron winning the championship and how his cards just stayed flat.
Yep.
And it was because everybody was expecting him to win. Therefore, if he wins, it stays flat. If he loses, it goes down. There's no situation in which it goes up after the win. Harper is one of the guys who, where if he wins it, you could actually see a bump because nobody's accumulating Harper because obviously he's going to win the MVP.
Right.
There's not that pre-built-in value.
We saw that with Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's Topps Chrome rookies in PSA 9, went from $3,000 prior to the postseason to $1,000 right now. I know a guy who's bought 16 of them since they came to 1,000.
And so
because
I want to say that because I'm very curious. If he wins it, I want to check the market a week later and just see if he gets a bump, then it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
Maybe if we can identify guys who haven't been built in, that might be an opportunity for people.
I think a couple of these teams, I think the Red Sox have some guys because they're general obscurity, and a lot of these guys like Bogarts.
So now let's go into yours. They're talking about the playoffs, and we talked about this last week, but you have more thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because so many players, the postseason is why we view them as great when they weren't necessarily great regular season players, right?
You came up with a good Griffey versus Jeter.
Griffey versus Jeter. Jeter is so postseason heavy and New York postseason heavy, meaning they won 5 championships.
And Griffey might be 3 times the player Jeter.
During the regular season, it wouldn't even be close if I was to pick a player on my team. Griffey's so much better, but he doesn't have. Baseball is unique that way. No, all the sports are championships, but baseball is such a long regular season that someone can just dominate day in and day out every day. And if they don't get that postseason,
I think I got a guy for you, the Kiro.
Yeah,
he's by far the hits leader.
Yeah,
but he never won anything, and his values are great, but they're not what he would be had he won a couple of World Series.
Yeah, and you can see this with a guy like Ernie Banks versus Mickey Mantle. Or a guy, these guys who never made it, but were
don't use Mickey Mantle because we're in New York. Let's find a guy who won, but in a smaller market. Not that Chicago's a small market.
Willie Mays, I guess. I mean,
Willie Mays is great. San Francisco.
And they're both.
They're
contemporaries. Yeah, because you don't want to go Dodger, Yankee, because those are markets that can amplify.
So I think
the
Willie
success.
Mays is great. Willie Mays is the guy who won it. Not in the most massive market on the planet, and he has massive.
But let's think about it. So the greatest potential then lies in the biggest markets doing it on the biggest stage.
And
so Dodgers, Yankees doing it both, right?
Do I have the GOAT? Do I have the GOAT?
Yep.
In the biggest market, who wins the championship?
Who wins it all? Right.
And so what are we talking about? Jeter.
Yep.
Jordan.
Yep.
Brady. Boston. Yep. Brady, Boston. Even David Ortiz is
LeBron Miami was a lot bigger than LeBron Cleveland.
Yeah.
LeBron Cleveland. And think about it too. Even in
it's hard to tell with LA because he's so built in.
But let me ask you this: when was the last time a guy became a national star because of a World Series performance?
David Freese.
But was he really in the general public viewed as a national star?
It was for like
when was he?
You mean like he became a star after?
Yeah, or was he even like on David? Like
David Freese was nuts.
There's not a lot of baseball players that have transcended into like public celebrity recently, right? I mean, it was true of all the 60s guys. Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, if you go 30s, 40s, 50s, the best baseball player might have been the biggest sports celebrity.
Right.
Now baseball's last almost.
Yeah,
hockey's further.
I can't even think of.
So
hockey.
Every postseason has the possibility of creating that next guy. Like Aaron Judge, really big guy in a big market. They haven't won for a while. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a name.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I mean, even the 90s and the early 2000s, Griffey, Jeter, all those guys were household names. I can't. Yeah. I mean, Trout is.
Jeter
but not really.
was a celebrity in New York, like very few people. We haven't seen anybody in baseball as popular as him.
A-Rod was in the tabloids, and like you don't see Trout in the tabloids.
No,
and part of that is because he's kind of a straight-laced dude, so there's nothing really to talk about.
No, that's part of it too. He's not and his personality, but even like Gronkowski and some of these guys who like, they just become like, more than.
Doesn't seem like Tatis get a lot of attention though. Like
Acuna, I feel like could do that
just from a personality
standpoint, charisma.
And, Machado yelling at Tatis in the dugout. Like, it was funny. Machado, who very well may be outside shot of first ballot Hall of Famer.
Let's pump the brakes.
And he was like telling this 22-year-old kid, "You're the best guy on the team," like over and over again. He's like, "You're the best guy on the team," screaming at him.
Yeah,
because he was like, they didn't want to throw him out.
Now
of
the
the
problem with the problem with the Padres is they're not in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's the problem now. That's why he's mad.
And I always love the underdog stories when a team like the Cardinals, who doesn't have this huge name. I mean, they got some guys. They got Arenado and whatever. But like, they don't have a household name in baseball fans.
You were Are you still a big Arenado guy, or did when he go to the Cardinals, you're like, whatever?
I personally love his game.
I'm gonna tell you something.
But he's not that guy.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you have mentioned Arenado to me. So last podcast, I talked about how you go to card-wise, you go to Cardinals and you die.
Yep.
You had mentioned Arenado to me in what's Kyle Tucker's top rookie? 19?
18.
Yeah, 18. 18? 19. So in 19, we busted that box. You wouldn't shut the hell up about Arenado. And you mentioned him maybe 6 times.
If there's
he goes to the Cardinals, I haven't heard you say his name once.
I'll say this much. If you enjoy defensive web gems, just go watch 10 minutes of Arenado making plays. He's the best defensive player.
I find it fascinating. He signs with Cardinal. I haven't heard you say a word about him. And
well,
he's got a good
and that's just because baseball, the Twins are so bad that I'm so discouraged that I've literally I can't.
The Twins are.
We need new ownership here. Lads need to go. I mean, they don't want to win. They want to make money. And
Kirby.
There's a difference.
Kirby.
Yeah.
We talked about this. Kirby.
Your daughter.
My daughter Kirby, named after a guy, decided to be a Yankees fan because somebody at Tiger Club said Twins were bad.
Yeah, so I'm interested in the playoffs. I think Kershaw had that bump. You know, we saw that for him when he finally got the monkey off his back. There isn't a guy that I'm looking at in the playoffs this year who's like this long-term vet. Like if we saw Miguel Cabrera or somebody like that.
You did mention last one that if the Dodgers were to win and Kershaw perform, that could really be a guy that card-wise you could just buy. Just keep buying. He could become like the Sandy Koufax of this era, right? Absolutely. Because Koufax won one against us in '65. Yeah. Did they win another one? I don't remember how many times they won, but that was super
you remember
important. The 65 World Series? That's cool.
Yeah, I was there.
No, I don't remember it, but like I'm trying to think.
I remember stories about
they were in the World Series. I don't know if he won more than one. I thought he was in more than one World Series.
I'll tell you right now. Sandy Koufax, 4-time World Series champion.
Was it 4? Yeah, I knew they were in it a lot. I just couldn't remember if they won.
63 and 65.
No, I did it.
So early 55 would have been his rookie year. Yeah. So
I just couldn't remember when they won.
So it'll be interesting because playoff baseball is. I will watch more baseball in the next 3 weeks.
4-1 Red Sox. Waiting, top of 7th, just struck out.
And the crazy part is my preseason pick to win it all is the Dodgers, and they have to beat Adam Wainwright tomorrow to just.
I didn't even realize. So. I didn't even realize that was a playing game.
Yeah.
That the Dodgers aren't guaranteed to play a whole series.
A whole series.
I want them to lose. I mean, I don't want you to lose money, but I do want to see.
Don't worry, I hedged.
I'll put it this way.
Giants Cardinals would be fun.
Remember,
yeah.
I've said this on podcast, and I've said this off podcast. I root for the team of whoever I'm holding the most of. Yes. And I am holding 10 rookie Wainwright autos, in-person autos.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm rooting for the Cardinals.
Nice.
I don't hold a lot of Seagers. So
I will be watching that game tomorrow, so it should be fun. I mean, did you watch the Tom Brady return, the game where he goes back to Foxborough? He became the 4th quarterback ever to beat every franchise.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Manning, Breeze, and Favre, I believe. So it was fun. They got the win, and it was very interesting to watch.
I saw
his interaction with his former teammates afterwards, and just it was kind of it was a sloppy game because it was raining. But one of my buddies flew out there. I almost went to the game.
Oh, cool.
Got a ticket, but Wyatt, who I told him, I said, Wyatt, Brady's made you enough money to justify you paying $1,200 to go see him play in Foxborough, and you'll have that memory.
Yeah, that must have been quite the environment.
Yeah, I don't think I have much else.
I think I'm tapped out. Thank you guys for listening.
Get your taxes
please subscribe.
done.
One of the things too is if you guys can share this video with collectors, we'd really appreciate it. And then definitely comment and let us know about when vintage starts.
And if there's a topic you guys want to hear us talk about more, let us know.
All right, thanks for listening.